It would be a race like any other, except for the fact that we've got two championships that are tied exactly. We sit with opportunity awaking for Vladislav Shopov, who's pulled his gap back to even. Christian Novev, who's got to pull himself back to a place of form. The dramas that befalled Martin Yankov last time out at Watkins Glen, and the ability of Rosti Koshev to now sit and say that the championship is back with his favour as we head to this track. Some say it's the younger cousin of the circuit of Estoril, but the Autodromo Internacional do Algarve is one such circuit which does require itself to be claimed as a modern classic when it comes to endurance-style racing. Welcome to the SimGear GT Masters. This is round 3 of 7 here for your action here, season number 9, as we get things sorted here with Pitlane.TV and with Bueller's. My name is Jake Sperry, here to bring you all of the action then here today from what is a very nice and sunny Algarve circuit out there, but there are threats on the horizon from practice over towards the race that there might be a hint of rain that could be coming in the next couple of hours or so. In sim time currently sits at a very nice 20 past 9 that it's about to hit, but these drivers know how important their runs are in terms of a championship effort here today as we look to get ourselves set and situated for today's action. It was important that Vladislav Shopov last time out pulled himself with a championship that he could be happy with. 128 points each for him and Christian Novev over the first 2 rounds, with Vladislav Raichinov 14 points adrift of that. Then it's Miroslav Sotorov, who finds himself then further 4 points back, 18 adrift. And then you've got Zdravko Ivanov in 5th, and of course Stanev in 6th position in category. So that's the top 6 as it lines up for GT3 Pro. At GT4, it's a lot more closely knit than that, because Rosti Koshev and Martin Yankov tied on points on 51, but Nikolai Mikov is just 1 point back on 50, so is very much in the fight of this championship, with Malinov back at 8 points and Palauzov back at 9. A lot of work for Alex Stefanov, who won last time out, to pull the points into a margin that is good enough to score, because he is 22 points adrift as things currently stand. GT3 AM may be the only one that is a little bit more opened out, but it's still very, very close, with Ivo Serafimov 9 points now clear of the 2 Mark Speed drivers of Joris Ooms and Roy Viveka, the 2 Belgians 2nd and 3rd, with Vladislav Mavrodiev now into 4th position. And then, of course, I believe it's Ivilo Dimitrov who now finds himself 5th. Maxim Dimitrov falls down to 7th in a tie with Katskarski, Nikolov Sr. and Andreev. Only Milan Milchev splits them in 6th position and is looking for a work. So we will keep a lot in mind as we go through, and we are getting confirmation for Bozidar Andreev, as we are about 15 seconds away from practice, that he does have a qualifying ban here today at the Autodromo Internacional do Algarve. So there is going to be a tough race today for him, because he will have to start from the back of the GT3 AM grid for this one. So practice has put itself into the books, and now we start talking about what qualifying has to offer. It's a 35-minute session here in qualifying, but it's split into 3 packs of 11. So you get 11 minutes to go and put a time, or to start, a time, and then you've got the ability to finish those laps, and it goes in reverse order up in the classes. So it starts, of course, here with your GT4 category, then GT3 AM, then GT3 Pro. No shocks at the first driver that has got himself out there and on to circuit. That is Martin Yankov in the BMW, looking at this, saying, I need this to be an all-important run here today, and hoping that the way that that all plays out in terms of points is going to be time on the board first, set everything around me first, and hopefully that M4G82 is going to be on top form here today. All in Malinov also following out there as we take our look at the AMG Mercedes that is just running through towards turn number 3, the Lagos corner out there, and that is, of course, Rostislav Koshev, who is there in what is the 13th position, categorized by random iRacing number to start them off in their grid positions, but of course now looking to get a little bit of tow along this backstretch to the VIP tower, as it's known, Torre VIP, as it is there, and running down through to be with his teammate Raban Skelton there at JRS. 101 and 102 in terms of their number entries, and looking for their good times. But it's a long old lap here around this circuit to go and get things sorted and situated for these drivers. They know more than anything else how crucial it is going to be for them to go and get these times in at a track that has a huge amount of elevation change. And does that tell you that anymore? Going into Craig Jones corner, the corner that is named in memorial of the British motorcycle rider who tragically lost his life, Craig Jones, at that section of circuits. A 15-turn track here at the Autodromo Internacional de Algarve, or Portimao as it's more colloquially known. That is the Sagres corner that we are seeing here at the exit of, and then Galpi, which is the final corner out on track, is the long sweeping right-hand bend that gives all of the attack off of the exit, and you need to carry that momentum onto a lap. The BWT car of Alex Stefanov, though, one last time out, so let's go with him for a flying lap around this circuit, dropping down the hill off of the plateau and finding the tough braking zone at turn number 1. Mind the anti-cut curb on the inside at Primera, and then through turn 2 and into Lagos corner here. Turn 3, the Lake corner, as it is known. Trying to carry the middle of the road. You have to use all of it here in the GT4, but attacking up the hill. It's off camber slightly as you climb, going through turn 4 and then over to Torre VIP here at turn number 5. You got to really hit the brakes because it's one of the slowest sections of the track, just 65 kilometers an hour out there, as we can see the green times coming in on the board out of turn 6 and then towards turn 7 and 8. These two transfer style corners, turn 7 and then Samsung at turn number 8. This 120-degree corner, you try and attack up the hill off the exit, be wary of the power, and then you get that light feeling in your feet and your stomach as you drop down the hill through the corner left of Craig Jones. Now up to Portimao corner itself, the corner that faces here on the south coast of Portugal, Portimao town itself. So back down the field once again, over through turn number 11 and then over to turn number 12 here, getting all of the rotation in the car. These dueling 180-degree right-handers, very similar to the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, but the drive off the exit of Sagres corner is important because you should be flat heading through the final stage, but there's a light lift then of about 10 kilometers an hour trying to get the rotation of the car through the middle of the corner, and Alex Stefanov here hoping that that time is going to work. 150.7 is the margin to beat, but it's purple across the board and by then some for Alex Stefanov there. 150.076. That is a light year faster than the championship contenders of Yankov, of Koshev, and also of Nikolai Mikov, who is on a 51.6 first lap, goes fourth fastest out there. 4 different manufacturers then housing the top 4. Only 5 different manufacturers available in the category of GT4. The Aston Martin Vantage, the BMW M4G82, the McLaren 570S, the little baby brother of the 720S that runs in GT3 in Evo spec out there. The Mercedes AMG GT4, and then the Porsche 718 Cayman Club Sport, which is out there as well, being piloted by Nikolai Mikov currently. But focus is on Yankov here, who has not been able to improve the first 2 sectors, but the next 2 have certainly come back into line. So I say that BMW has found a way to gather it back, trying to get the turn through the final corner here of Galpe and over towards the line. We'll see what this is as improvement. Well, it is a minor one out there, just another 1/10 of a second that gains of that improvement, and still half a second away from what is needed. There's some good times coming in then from Orlin Malinov here, who is going green in every sector. So too Valentin Stemenkov also looking to improve, and Dimitar Palauzov is also looking like there's some good times there. Malinov goes to a 52 flat, so moves up to 6th position. Behind that, over the line, Stemenkov goes second there in the McLaren 5. Absolutely wonderful there in the McLaren 570. So wonderful time there to go front row, but is beaten by Rosti Koshev, who does go second on a 50.4. Stefanov improved to a 49.8 and maintains that half a second gap. But as we focus here with Ivanov heading over towards the line, Radlen Ivanov has found a good time, and we also caught an eye on Krastin Stanchev there with a 52.7. So Radlen Ivanov as well also finding time there in what is a little bit of a stronger GT4 field here today as we look through the very pale green there on the side for Radlen Ivanov, who in the 108 machine is looking to make that inaugural start of the season and to pilot the BMWs into play. 4 of them now with Palauzov, Stanchev and Ivanov running with them. So 4, 6, 7, 8 and 9, they find themselves currently out on circuit. Malinov still finding improvements, but also on track looking for a time is Alexander Nikolov Jr., who is there. Stefanov back down into the pits. Koshev up the hill as well, looking for lap time as Yankov does not improve on his time, as we see in the bottom of your screen all of the times that are going in on the board. But we are keeping our cool eyes clear on who can improve, like Orlin Malinov, for example, in the Aston Martin Vantage, looking to drive up the hill and over towards the exit. And the finish line here does not constitute the end of the lap. It's the start line that does. Sorry, it is the finish line that does. 51.8. They're good enough as Nikolov comes through 150.6. We'll keep an eye on the 101 of Rosti Koshev here, looking to improve on a 150.4. Does not. 50.5 goes away in the final 3 sectors, which does make you worry here with a couple of minutes to go that no improvements will be found. But Koshev will be happy about being ahead of the driver he's tied with on championship points in Yankov, but it does look like the McLarens, they do have a little bit of an advantage here today with Stemenkov and Nikolov 4th and 5th at the moment here in GT4. Nikolai Mikov pulling down into the pit, saying that will be my lot, depending on whether there is enough for tyres to go through. There's the off-track racing car then running through the VIP Tower corner. Dimitar Palauzov hoping for a little shade of improvement as we listen in, going through with 2 minutes to go in GT4 quali. Over the top of the brow. Now through the left-hander, climbing back up the hill once again over towards Portimao corner. This double apex right, blind corner on the entry, and then the track falls away from you on the exit. So you've got to be patient as you put the power down, because it is easy to slide the rears if you've got too much torque through them. Not so much of a worry in GT4, but I would say more of a concern when GT3 decides that they want to put themselves into play. Malinov still improving in terms of time with green sectors, but stays then onto a 49.8, a 51.7 improvement there as came over the line. So just a 10th off of Nikolai Mikov and starting to get those improvements. Palauzov then with what will be the penultimate lap of his qualifying session, 53.4, so that was a full 1.3 seconds off the pace. And there is the 102 car of Raban Skelton, who has yet to set a time and finally does so, going up to the 4th row of GT4 there. That 102 car putting a 51.672 down, 600ths off of Nikolai Mikov, getting very close actually here between those drivers. 6th back to 8th as they set. There is 110, and Martin Yankov hoping that there is improvement out there on the lap, but it looks like it is slowly fading away. No improvements on the green sectors, and probably isn't going to get around Sagres corner and Galpi corner to end out the lap. So I think Martin Yankov is going to be wrong place, wrong time, heading over towards the line. Checker flag now out in GT4, which means that GT3 AM are now licensed to enter the circuit and begin their outlaps here as all of those drivers look to try and find those improvements. Yankov pulls over right and dives down into the lane, and the procedure here today is going to be about that white line just as you enter the pits. That white line that's there is your marker as your go zone here today. All in Malinov, though, didn't manage to find the first two sectors to work. The next two, though, have, and this could be close. It could be the difference of two positions. 51.7, 51.6, 8.1. Oh, that's a shame. Going over the line, Malinov short by 100th of a second from gaining the place on out there on Raban Skelton and Nikolai Mikov. Palauzov pulling off into the pits. Rusty Koshev on a final lap. Is this going to be enough? He found a green middle sector, but over the line, 50.401. That is not going to be enough to get that over the line. In fact, he's done two 1 minute 50.401s, but the fractions of time slightly quicker on his second attempt out there. I believe it just leaves Radlin Ivanov, who will pull it over to the right-hand side and say that's done. So now, welcome to GT3 AM and the interesting games that will be played out there overall. You've got Milan Milchev and Vladimir Mavrodiev together, and of course Paniot Karpachev, whose race was ended incredibly early at Watkins Glen, just one corner taken before he got caught up in an incident with Yulian Janovsky. So there are a number of drivers who want to try and get themselves back into play, but as their championship stacks up and they look to start their first qualifying times out there, Ivo Serafimov 9 points to the good over Joris Ohms, and Ohms 1 point clear of Roy Viveka. Viveka 2 points clear of Vladislav Mavrodiev, who is there in fourth position for off-track racing. And now you're starting to look at those points and how they're scoring. Remember, they all run on the same point scoring system as Karpachev has just dived down into the pits. They all look around and say, well, how do we score from race to race, from points to points? As they go through, you get a wonderful boon of points as you go through each and every single meeting. It is 70 points for a race win out there, but you also get a couple of bonus points out there. One, if you get a fastest lap, or the fastest lap, sorry, throughout the racing, you'll get an extra 1 championship point. And if you finish the race without picking up a single incident point, that's a further 2 into the back pocket. So a maximum of 73 points to be scored. Points score, believe it or not, all the way down to 50th place, where there's 1 championship point in the offing. So today, when we've got a field that is out there and racing of 32 drivers, it means we are going to be scoring down to 19 championship points here if all 32 manage to find the checkered flag. But the interesting point is that we do not split the points up by category. They all score from the same points haul, which means that GT4 is a consistency championship. GT3, you have a little bit more luxury and leeway in the Pro and AMs as you go. So those all looking to bring themselves into mind. First times now going to come onto the board as the GT3R 992 of Ivailo Dimitrov sets the first real cadence out there in qualifying of a 43.8. Ivo Serafimov, your championship leader, follows though and takes control on a 43.767. So that is a good banker lap time as the likes of Milchev and Mavrodiev go through. Maxim Dimitrov, who was caught out very early on as well at Watkins Glen, now puts the car on pole provisionally with a 43.613. So that will certainly boost in terms of what is needed. And now we watch the outlap then going through of, I believe, Karpachev, who is making a way around and now gearing up for this flying lap, because we did note that Karpachev had dived into the pits, but now, with half the session pretty much almost gone, you've got to really wake up that BMW and put it into play. Joris Ooms going purple, though, through the first two sectors, and this is a big move for Mark Speed right now in the Porsche. They will be very happy with the pace of Joris Ooms at this point. Down the hill, over towards turn number 12, out on track, knowing that Sagres corner, turn 13, will be next. Really trying to open up the track here. Slightly misses the apex, though, by about a half a car width, though, through the middle, and only now it goes green through what is that next sector out there. I think we're running a 3-sector run out there on track rather than a 5-sector run. So we'll look at Joris Ooms heading over. Joris to the line, 43.182, half a second faster than Maxim Dimitrov. That is a big time by Joris Ooms, and one that will certainly boost the confidence out there as different drivers look to put their times down on in. One of the off-track cars then making a way down to turn 1, Vladimir Mavrodiev, only on a 45 flat, so 2 seconds to go and chase down. There is the lime green Porsche of Dimitar Dimitrov, still yet to set a qualifying time, but looking for every which way to go and do so. There is Stanimir Borisov in the very much learner driver, some would say, their crash test dummy-esque yellow car out there in the Porsche. And then, of course, the teammate to him is out there on the track and running a different car entirely, and that is Lyubomir Velkov, who is there in 12th position on a 146.8, so a full second off the pace here today of the next nearest driver. Oh, and that's why out of Primera, having to catch a big bucket of oversteer off the exit. You've got a very loaded car through Primera, so when you do try and unload the car and get as much drive through the track as you can towards turn 2 and then into turn 3 at Lagos, very easy for that car to shake, rattle, and roll about out there on circuit, especially with the, I believe, McLaren that is being run at the moment by Velkov. So that will be a cause for concern, but Joris Ooms going purple in Sector 1, going purple in Sector 3 as well, and heading over the line. Serafimov with the fastest final sector is on a 43.5, but a 43 flat now for Joris Ooms, who is starting to really show that AM category is going to be one that he is destined to try and fight with, as Mavrodiev has come over the line, 44.9, and more drivers then thinking about in or out at this point. Alexander Nikolov Sr. then on a 44.5, 1.5 off the pace. Movement for Roy Viveka, goes fourth fastest on a 43.7, so Mark Speed, who are second and third. Viveka definitely with the consistency value here today to go and get this done. But what about Karpachev, as he is always a threat out there in races like these? 44.1, 7th position only here at Portimao in what will be classified, at least as at this moment, as partly cloudy conditions at an in-sim time of heading over towards about 10 o'clock. So there is still the threat of rain on the horizon, but it's definitely diminished from where it was, about 15% at 11:45. So we'll see what the time does as it moves over. We've only got an hour's worth of racing, so there might be a tiny threat of rain on the horizon if everything pulls together near the end of the race. But on board on the Acura as we run through out of Sagres corner and over towards Galpi, the final corner out on track with Ivo Serafimov. The Acura looking to try and challenge a field of Porsches, which are 1, 3, 4, and 5. The balance of performance really helping. It is another improvement by Serafimov to a 43.3. But again, it's whittling away the gap. It's not dealing with the gap and going wide there. I think Serafimov has said, I'm done. I can't do any more than that in terms of qualifying times. Ivilo Dimitrov then looking to challenge through here towards this final couple of corners and hoping that there is going to be enough to jump up at least one more to Roy Viveka. 0.2 of a second could even get by Maxim Dimitrov. There's only 5 or 6 thousandths of a second between Dimitrov and Viveka. Out of the final corner, up the crest with a minute to go in qualifying, and it's a 43.746. So did improve, but needs still another 1/10 of a second in order to make the lasting improvements that's needed. Maxim Dimitrov now on the back of Milen Milchev, and that slipstream will be important. Who you go out with might be a difference maker in these races, as heading over towards the line goes Maxim Dimitrov. We'll see what this is going to be, and it's a 43.089. Oh, it was mighty close to pole there, and that final sector certainly awoke something there in Joris Ooms, who is just 0.04 of a second clear now at pole and will be very much quaking about at this stage. We'll see what he can do, but it looks like there's no improvements there, as we will soon get GT3 Pro out there on circuit. Joris Ooms over the line on a 44.2, so definitely no improvement, abandoning that at that point. Mavrodiev and Viveka still out there on track, and Roy Viveka here is still struggling to find the sectors that work to his favour through Sagres corner, and really going to need to be brave on the throttle, carrying the speed in the Mark Speed racing car down to 185 kilometers an hour, trying to get the drive off the exit, but does pull the car down into the pits, as most drivers, I think, have just abandoned their final laps, which does leave everybody in. The last car, I think, will be Dimitar Dimitrov and Ivaylo Dimitrov. So the two Dimitrovs part of the same team. Look like they're going to be the final two coming around the circuit to try and make sure that their lap times are in and on the board. But for Ivaylo Dimitrov, that is a pull over to the right down into lane. And for Dimitar Dimitrov, it looks like this might be the same out there with those yellow sectors going along for the car, which is classified in 24th position. Will need a time, though, and would certainly be very much looking for it, knowing that the likes of Bozidar Andreev will not be setting a qualifying time, and they would be split by iRating. Would there not be a time set by Dimitar Dimitrov, who will not set a representative flying lap, meaning Joris Ooms is the best of your GT3 AM field. So, GT3 Pro. And now this becomes a very interesting category, because you've got two drivers tied at the top of the standings. Car 1, Vladislav Shopov, and then also with him, he's got to look at car 6, which is Christian Novev out there on track, who will prove to be a big difference maker out there with this session. Were a couple of surprises in qualifying. There looked like there was some great pace from Yulian Janowski here today on a 43.1. So he's someone who desperately wants to bounce back from the problems that Yuli had earlier on last time out at Watkins Glen. So we'll see whether the movement is going to be made. But here with him on this lap, Yuli going through Primera, out then of turn 2 and hitting turn number 3, Lagos corner. And you don't have to use all the circuit. You can see taking that shallow line, moving to the right, because turn 4 has a lot more priority for getting access on the exit, because you've got this, I would say, semi-long straight, which crests and descends downhill for a downhill braking zone. You've got to stay out of trouble, which Vladislav Shopov has failed to do, so will abandon his first lap in the Porsche. Wide off the exit goes Janowski, and he's got to be a little bit careful about that in the Acura, but manages just about to keep things all pristine and pretty, as we watch now with the Porsche of Vladislav Shopov, which has pulled it off to the side and has kept it out of the way. As we go further up to Gabriel Ivanov, who will be your first driver to set a flying time in this category. This is going to be an interesting look at seeing where the pace lies compared to GT3 AM and GT3 Pro. Sagres corner, you can see there with the front wheels as well that there's a little bit of that toe in just to get the camber working on the cars and making sure that they are getting the best contact patch that they can. If you look at a tire on a contact patch that you have down on the circuit, it does pay to be on a knife edge in terms of grip rather than having the full flat of the tire. 42.7 though, 0.3 quicker than Eurozomes. That will tell you what you need to know in terms of pace immediately as Nicholas Stanev puts only a 43.8 down, and that might be quite a telling time out there. No time for Shopov as we're with car 5 of Chris Vrajilov, who's gone fourth fastest on a 43.1. I think we're going to have a very jumbled up field here today, if that is anything to go by. Christian Novev can only manage 6th position out there with a 43.4, but is this just a case of trying to get tyres into an operating window out there here today, or is this more drivers finding out just how tough this qualifying session is? It's not that windy out there here today either, so just the 5 kilometers an hour's worth of wind, so there's not really anything that is threatening at this moment. We do know that the cloud cover will be due to come in. Track temperature currently at 26 degrees Celsius, so if that track gets colder, there are really big opportunities. You've got Ventsislav Raichanov currently out there on a lap, getting all of the green times in on the board. Nicholas Stanev also looking to improve. There is the 2 of Raichanov heading over towards the line and crossing it, 42.4. So there's a big shot for Raichanov in the Porsche, going quickest and needing to have gone quickest there, playing that team game as we have talked about often last time we were with you, and keeping an eye out on those team standings where Negative Delta by simgear.bg find themselves on top on 242 points, with Raichanov third in the championship at 14 points adrift. Absolutely good result there. Vrajilov has gone up to 3rd fastest. Stanev stays 9th. Vladi Shopov, you run out of words, don't you? You look at Vladislav Shopov. Every single time he qualifies, he's 4/10, 5/10 of a second clear of the rest of the field. It must be a nightmare for all of these drivers to deal with him, because they know that they're at their best. Vladi Shopov is just going to put a wonderful time down on the board, and he has done so again out there on track. This time at Portimao, he is 100% at the moment for pole positions in this series, and I think he might be trying to gear up for another, and it's 1-2 for the simgear.bg cars of Negative Delta at this moment. So Vladislav Shopov in absolutely superfluous form at this moment. Raichanov 2nd, Ivanov in 3rd, and Vrajilov currently classified as 4th position, but Novev is a little bit of nowhere at the moment in P8, and that might be a very hectic run for Christian Novev if he has to then consider that the likes of Raichanov might just try and leapfrog him in the championship here today. On board then we go, running through to towards Sagres corner, as this is Vladislav Shopov here. Behind him, Chris Vrajilov. Nicholas Stanev is there with Yulian Janovsky in the train. Gabriel Ivanov is just in front, 3rd position currently in qualifying, trying to make the McLaren purr out there on track. As now here comes Shopov, as Ivanov dives for the lane, so too does Shopov. A quick chance to get tyres and go back out again. Stanev coming over towards the line, doesn't find a time. Chris Vrajilov also failed to find a lap time out there. So now to Christian Novev. Is this going to be a dive for the pits, or does this lap have improvement written all over it? Would love to get to Chris Vrajilov in terms of time, but that was 2/10 slower again. So Novev, I don't think, has left himself enough time to go back out. If he knew it was going to be slower, maybe he should have pulled it back into the pits, got some tyres and said, we'll go again. But that isn't great by his standards. Still stuck down in 8th position, knowing that there is still a long way to go. Vrichinov then on screen. Surely we'll be thinking about whether pulling this into the pits. Yellow in Sector 1, yellow in Sector 2, and looking at Sector 3, it might be a little bit of a taller order out there because you've only got till 33 minutes. There should still be enough time for Vrichinov to come in, get a fresh set of tyres, and go out again through the long right-hander of Galpi corner here in this clockwise circuit at the Autodromo Internacional do Algarve, pulling off into the pits, and that will be Vrichinov then looking at what is next for him. But now through at the left-hand corner, switching back into the right, is Chris Vrajilov, who is still down a time, and with about a minute and a half soon to go, or 2 minutes and a quarter right now, it's looking pretty comfy for those top three. A number of drivers still need to find times, for example, out there. So they all stare down the barrel of a very tough field's worth of action. Gabriel Ivanov, one of those on an outlap. Let's listen in. Don't you just love the roar of that engine? That number 11 out there trying to get 2 1s and 2 positions to be at P number 1. Oh, that's a huge wiggle. That might just compromise the entire run coming out of the corner and give a little bit of an advantage back to Shopov and Vrichinov on his final attempt out there, because he'll have till minute 33 to go and put it up on the boards, cresting the rise, which is there to the finish line, and now setting this qualifying lap time and looking for it to go ablaze. Chris Vrajilov up the top of the hill now at Portimao corner. 4th position and feeling very comfortable with that 4th. Got to be careful about running wide like that, though, going through Portimao corner. That could have opened up the door for an off-track incident point, which is your 0x, your 1x, your 2x, or your 4x. If you make contact, you spin, or you run off the circuit, and that could have been disastrous there. Vrajilov green in the first sector, yellow in the second, needing to gather up that final sector again, and now through Galpi corner, hoping this is going to be enough. Chris Vrajilov making the run towards the line, currently in P4, and stays P4, does not improve. So that was not what the doctor ordered there, but Christian Novev's final lap now brings itself alive and needs desperately to go up 0.3 of a second. An eye on a 43 flat would be great. A 43.9 though it is for Novev. And as the checker flag comes out, I think he's just given himself time. Vrichinov over the line. No improvement for him. But Gabriel Ivanov now sits in 3rd position. Can he find a way to give Vladislav Shopov a little scare late on in qualifying? Can he break up cars 1 and 2 from P1 and 2 as Ivanov now descending down through Galpi and looking at this at the checkered flag, hoping that this time it's going to be enough. He has a massive wiggle out there on the AstroTurf. Is this going to count over the line? It's not, because there's an off track. So Gabriel Ivanov, no improvement. Julian Janovsky comes to the line. That one won't work for him, so that won't do. Vladi Shopov then will have a free roam over towards the line. 150 from him, so no improvements out there. That will be that in terms of qualifying. Vladislav Shopov didn't really have too much to worry about there, but did, in absolute confidence, find the pole position by 4.5 tenths of a second. So when you look at that, when you understand a strong qualifying effort once again, the race pace is going to have to be relied on, and drivers are going to have to make a lot of moves early to go and get that reality sorted. A very strong GT3 AM category here today. 4 drivers in GT3 Pro, 3 then follow in GT3 AM with Ooms, Dimitrov and Serafimov, as we see the final few drivers coming towards the line. Venceslav Vrichinov then looking to try and get that time. Did marginally improve, but not by enough there. So still 4/10 back with that purple final sector there in Raichanov's back pocket. You've got the checker flag officially out now in session, which will allow all of the drivers then to come to the line and take exactly what they need out of it. Gabriel Ivanov then looking to drive and get this qualifying lap in on the books. 42.7. 42.8, so still couldn't manage it out there. Janowski will pull off into the pits, and then Vladislav Shopov, I'm sure, who is purple in the middle sector, I think wants to make a statement here, but does pull it over to the right-hand side and does not improve on there. So as Barney waves the checkered flag, that will be that then for qualifying. We will be going in, and oh, look at that. We're going to get some doughies coming over the line there. So looks like there for Vladislav Shopov, able to get what was needed there done just to have a bit of flair left on the circuit. Good thing he's not using those tyres again as we now head over to the grid. So it will stack up as follows. Vladislav Shopov will be on your pole position and will be very happy with that, with Venceslav Raichanov alongside the company on that front row, making negative delta by SimGear lock that out. It's then Gabriel Ivanov, for off-track racing, and Chris Razulov for the KK squad there out on board. And then Mark Speed with Joris Ohms, the first of the GT3 AM, starting fifth, with Maxim Dimitrov in sixth. It's then Ivo Serafimov and Christian Novev back there in P8. Roy Viveka and Nicholas Stanev make up the top 10, with Yulian Janovsky 11th and Ivailo Dimitrov in 12th position. Following that then is going to be Milan Milchev and Panayot Karpachev 13th and 14th, with Alexander Nikolov Sr. and Lazar Katsarski in 16th position. You then got Vladimir Mavrodiev and Stanimir Borisov, who will be classified as 17th and 18th in qualifying, with Lyubimir Velkov and Dimitar Dimitrov. Despite Dimitrov's time being slower than all of the GT4s, he'll be promoted to 20th, and no time there for the Radopa Racing Team driver of Bozidar Andreev due to the qualifying ban, will have to go from 21st position. In GT4, Alex Stefanov then will get himself onto the front, with Rostislav Koshev in second position, 23rd overall. Martin Yankov then follows behind as the championship contenders are second and third. Valentin Stamenkov will then follow up in 25th, with Alexander Nikolov Jr. in 26th. Then it's Nikolai Mikov and Roban Skelton. Mikov with a little bit of work to do then to stay as close to their main championship rivals. 2 points will get Nikolai Mikov ahead, and then Orlin Malinov, Dimitar Palauzov, Krastin Stanchev, and Radlan Ivanov make up your field here today. So the Autodromo Internacional de Algarve now brings itself in with one full pace lap behind the iracing BMW safety car, which will have the lights off of it as it pilots around this circuit. No one wants to see the safety car do what happened over at the Circuit of the Americas over the last couple of weeks, and fortunately enough, here in iRacing, we don't get the luxury of seeing a General Motors or seeing all of the gaffes is the right way to say it, gaffes that happen with the safety car. But these drivers now have themselves one opportunity to talk about, and that is to get themselves in an operating window and to be quick here off of this hour. They know how important the result is going to be here today for each and every single driver that now sits and looks to try and put this championship together. And they do realize as well that when it comes to next week, we move away from the Type A version of racing, which is 1 hour, and we had an extra 20 minutes on the clock, making it 1 hour 20 over at Mugello, which will be that 4th round of the championship. They will also have Circuit of the Americas around 5 after a week's break for Easter, and then beyond that, Road Atlanta as a Type A, and then finishing off at the Circuit de la Sarthe Le Mans as a Type B. There as well is your second category, and Alex Stefanov, who's got an almost impossible challenge here to move on up with the point system that they have have available to them. It's very, very difficult to claw back 22 championship points on both of these drivers in front. So you are very reliant on getting up through the order or having a lot of retirements in and around. Gabriel Ivanov happy to sit in what is a slew of cars around him. They're trying to work. The Porsches look very strong out there in qualifying trim, and we will see whether that does also take its place as far as racing action goes. We take this wonderful blimp camera shot here going down the hill over towards turn 11 and then turn number 12. When the pace car exits Galpi corner and pulls into the pits, Vladislav Shopov will have control of the pace, as he has done at every round so far this season, knowing that there is a full hour to try and unlock another race victory in his back pocket. Keep an eye on that launch, though, with his teammate Venceslav Raichanov. They could really get a good launch on Gabriel Ivanov and Chris Vrajilov and really unlock what is needed. But as they now exit Sagres and drop down through Galpi, time is now set. In sim time is about 35 minutes past 10. There is a threat of rain on the horizon for the second half of this race. We will see whether that comes into play as we get ready. Pace car dives down in. Pace under the control then of Vladislav Shopov, who waits and waits and waits for the drop of the green flag to make that launch at the 11th hour. He will go green flag in the air, and underway they go, and they will start to fan 4 wide almost. Big slow start by Maxim Dimitrov, 5 wide in the middle as they go towards turn 1 at Primera. Now you're going to have to work out where you go through. We're going to have spinners as they go through, and it's 2 of the negative Delta cars that's gone around, and it's Christian Novev who's gone around with Yulian Janovsky in tow. So both in trouble. Tip around. Venceslav Raichanov crossed the road. Going to go one car, one of the Mark Speed cars. Sorry, that's the off-track car of Ivanov who's gone around. Disastrous start there. Much cleaner in GT4, but my, that was not the start that was needed for many of the championship contenders as they tiptoed through the opening few corners. Alex Stefanov with the gap. Alexander Nikolov Jr. got a great launch on Martin Yankov, who's fallen back to 4th. Nicholas Stanev now into 3rd position. We'll take a look at this in slow motion. Gabriel Ivanov, 3 in there, and just taps the 2, which brings Raichanov back in, and then is run over there, being spread eagle across the middle of the circuit. So was very fortunate to only just be off the circuit and actually not beat you with those 2 tyres there on the road. They're going through on that painted surface, but still able to continue on what was a very shaky start to this race. Shopov leads, Vrajilov in 2nd now. It's Nicholas Stanev, who started 10th, by the way, and is up to 3rd. Gain of 7 on the opening lap. What a mega start that was. Joris Ohms in 4th, Ivo Serafimov in 5th, and Roy Viveka in 6th. It's then Raichanov, who's 7th, with Milan Milchev in 8th, and Vilo Dimitrov is 9th, with Maxim Dimitrov rounding out your top 10 of the field. So recoveries needed for Janovsky, for Ivanov, for Novev as they look to try, and also for Mavrodiev, who hasn't had the best of starts. There goes Yuli on the front stretch, straight on by, and getting 1 dealt with. Lyubomir Velkov there, an important move that is done as there is Panayot Karpachev in the BMW. Watch out down to the inside, because trying to run that outside line, Stanimir Borisov looked like he had a run, but ultimately didn't get there. And Joris Ohms, who is leader in GT3 AM, under pressure from Ivo Serafimov, but also just as equally looking to try and move up past Nicholas Stanev for that 3rd position. It would be the first time that a GT3 AM car would be on the podium. Now, this is Robin Skelton here in slow motion as we take a look at what has happened here over through the corner. Oh, that's a hefty bit of contact there through on the opening lap. That's why the gap opened up there, catching the Castrol-coloured car out there, which was not good of, I believe, Valentin Stemenkov, who was caught up there and is at the back. So Stemenkov, who was there with Yankov, leaves the door half ajar, but a jar's not a door, and as such, that is an accident. And for Valentin Stemenkov, You can see doubly difficult then, trying to drive on through at Galpi corner. The back just completely swapping there, going through the final corner and dropping Stamenkov right down to the back of the field. But for the moment, top two have run away. Stanev in third, continuing to stay close here with Ooms and Serafimov and Raichanov. Big wide line taken by by Ivo Serafimov, out there. Roy Viveka has dropped back the place, though, on the replay. So there has been a good move by Venceslav Raichanov, and that was done into turn 11 as Maxim Dimitrov remains close through the opening corner, but Viveka losing out that pass will not be best pleased about it. That was nearly a huge incident waiting to happen. Milan Milchev and Ivilo Dimitrov there getting close together. Ivilo was so late on the brakes, he had to get up on the binders like the anthill mob had to, and look at what it cost him on the exit of 3 and into 4 at 5 at VIP Tower. There you go, Maxim Dimitrov moving on through and goes up into 9th, and now we'll chase Milan Milchev there. The focus at the moment in 8th position as things stand. So at least right now, they are sitting and hoping that they are going to be in a nice position. Look at that wave of black, angry cloud that sits on the horizon there, and it does go to show that although we've got a little bit of sunshine right now, that there are going to be questions to be asked, especially of this driver, Christian Novev, who needs to just get his head down and start finding moves, and he gives a bit of door as he goes by Alexander Nikolov Sr. there. So there for Christian Novev, he's getting a little bit elbows out early here in this race to try and get himself moving forward. Behind him, Gabriel Ivanov looking at a pass on Lazar Katsarski there in the red and white Marlboro-inspired colours out there. Please smoke responsibly, ladies and gentlemen, if you're out there at any point. But now Gabriel Ivanov going through Galpi corner and hoping that there is going to be the charge off the exit that is required. There is also going to be moves as Ivo Serafimov wants GT3 AM lead. Yulian Janovsky into the pits early then here in this race as they go through. Watch out towards turn 3 because Serafimov still back down the inside as now Gabriel Ivanov gets the pass done on Lazar Katsarski. Almost contact, I've just noticed off screen, between Raichanov and Serafimov. Serafimov's got a great run. Please go to P4 because now Joris Ohms, he has to lift off and let that one go through the middle of the corner. Ivo Serafimov leads GT3 AM again, championship leader by 9, now looking to extend that margin, and this today a day where you could really find a lot of points out there overall. 1, 2, 3 and 4 also still together in GT4 with Alex Stefanov, Kotchev, Alexander Nikolov Jr. and Martin Yankov, as Serafimov now looks to try and chase back up to Nicholas Stanev for that position. Down the hill into VIP Tower, and Alexander Nikolov very happy just to stay. So Yulian Janovsky officially your first retiree from the race here today from 32nd, and look at how busted the front of Raban Skelton's AMG Mercedes looks like right now. It looks like it has just been in a fight with Deontay Wilder or Alexander Usyk and has just completely come off second best out there at the moment. There is Gabriel Ivanov, who looks now, and so too Venceslav Raichanov, wanting to find a move and wanting to jump up now into the top 5 overall. Lead gap now up to 2.2 seconds for Vladi Shopov, but here goes down the inside. Raichanov needs to confirm the pass on Joris Ohms here for this position and gets through the corner, and now at Lagos gets it done. So wonderfully done by Raichanov. He gets the pass through and sorted, and the change is continuing on then as Katsarski now has Christian Novev for a little bit of company. So Novev here, I think's dropped down a good 2 or 3 positions, as now here comes Maxim Dimitrov. Down the inside, 3 wide they go on Milchev and on Roy Viveka. Oh, wonderful. Up the hill, trying to get it done. I did see what happened to Novev. He caught the anti-cut curb at turn 1 a lap ago, and that's why there was troubles, but still going round. Milan Milchev there, having a big spin, going through over towards Samsung. Out of turn 7, he got aggressive, following through the corner, tagged the back of the Porsche of Roy Vervaeke, and nothing more that could be done except turning the Beamer around and having to find that close. You can see goes a little hot into the corner, tags the back, unsettles the front, and then round goes Milan Milchev there, all of his own doing. So having to try and recover that back then through. He's now behind Alexander Nikolov, Katsarski, Borisov. Oh, Karpachev's made contact with Novev out there as we watch Katsarski out there, and the big avoiding action that had to be taken. Bang! Nikolov caught up. So too Christian Novev there having to go around the outside. So that shows you how much they had to fight. And there is Alexander Nikolov Sr., who had to get himself involved then with it, and that is what we would call an unsafe rejoin. You can see what Milan Milchev was trying to do, get out of the way of all of the drivers, but coming straight up onto the racing line, never going to be helpful. Staromir Borisov's perspective of this had to go all the way out and had to think about, well, am I going to stop or am I going to try and find a way through? Almost to nothing at all. There was the issue. Now something's happened to Krastin Stanchev then in this position. This is with Raban Skelton, and again, 7 and 8, catching everyone out, and the contact that is there turns him around then into the gravel. So very busy for our camera operator down there. Milan Milchev down into the pits, and officially a retirement then for Vladimir Mavrodiev, who now makes it 2 retirements then in this race at Portimao. 1/6 of this race then about to be scored in the books at 10 minutes. Maxim Dimitrov now looking to give some chase here with Bozidar Andreev, who, remember, didn't set a qualifying lap time. He's now up to 8th. 8th? Wow, what a start from Andreev. First 10 minutes, 21st to 8th out there on circuit. He is running with a lot of pace right now, and he wants to use it with every single opportunity he can find. Over to GT4 as we watch Rostislav Koshev here, who will have the championship lead if he stays in this position. He's tied on points with Martin Yankov, who is back behind him in 4th position, just shadowing this group and trying to stay close as they go through the very fast left-hand bend down at the bottom of the hill at Craig Jones, and looking to charge back up the order once again as they go through. And Andreev remaining close here in this one and has stayed relatively out of trouble. Here has Bozidar Andreev out of Lagos, up the hill at turn 4, over to the VIP tower, which you can see that there on the left-hand side, the landmark icon of this circuit, and defensive pack there for Roy Vervaeke, who has thrown it very deep into the corner and might lose out on the exit. Now Venceslav Raichanov here trying to get by Nicholas Stanev, because Raichanov will want to try and help the team's championship out with Vladi Shopov leading by 3.2 out there at this point. Up over the top of the crest, going over to Craig Jones once again, and this corner that they fly through, this fast left-hander up the hill to Portimao corner, exactly, and now trying to get this switchback going through. Stanev still holding that margin, but you've got turn 11 and 12, which are coming up and are proving like they are going to be sections of circuit you want to keep your eyes on. So there is going to be moves, and you now get a look, 1% chance of rain in the next 13 minutes, and we are expecting this race over the next 45 minutes to go up to about a 14% chance of rain. So there could be a few scattered showers heading towards the end of the race. We'll keep an eye out to see how the clouds develop as this race goes on. Track temperature 31 degrees out there, so I would say right in the sweet spot for drivers out there. Not too much oversteer, not too much understeer through the opening corner. Huge unsettlement over the curb by Stanev. Raichanov has got his pass and moves himself up then through into that next place. Got that one done up at Portimao corner, and now Raichanov with the chance to run away with Ivo Serafimov and Joris Ohms finding themselves together. Roban Skelton continuing on the battle right now, this time with Dimitar Palazov down here in GT4. It's BMW versus dented Mercedes out there at this point. Milan Milchev will now exit the pits and will be able to continue out and away again. And Mavrodiev has gone back out, so it looked like that was a technical disconnect that was there. So Alexander Nikolov Sr., what's happened here for the Gorilla Garage car, the JRS machine, and the Yekov Rally School sponsorship on the front? That is just a pure spin, pure and simple, just over-rotating the car, maybe a little bit too much trail brake into the corner, and then that one just fades away in terms of responsibility. They will have to make a pit stop in this race, and they will have to be alert to it. Valentin Stemenkov, though, has found the back of another driver. That's Krastin Stanchev that is there just in front. So it's the Castrol car versus the off-road racing machine, it looks like at this point. So off-track racing will look around. Krastin Stanchev looks around. Here comes Valentin Stemenkov straight down to the inside, looking at turn one. Just enough room given. Brilliant driving by Krastin Stanchev there to hold that position. And speaking of positions that are starting to move about and change ever so slightly, Borisov behind Alexander Nikolov now out there on track. But we've got movement here every which way that you look. So you got battles on top to bottom, and now you got lapping process. Vladi Shopov straight down the inside of these two. Just getting the clearance there, and then we'll get the superior drive off the exit with the traction control that's available there in the GT3 Porsche. And running away a little bit more. Stemenkov then holding his line and holding his nerve despite being a ways down in this field. A full half a minute, 40 seconds behind Alex Stefanov last time they came over the line. But Stefanov dealing with a lot, with Koshev, with Nikolov, and with Yankov starting to fall off the back now of the lead GT4 battle. 19th, 20th, 21st, and 22nd. As there is car 5 of Chris Vrajilov, second overall. Sweeps by one, left or right, couldn't decide. So ultimately, the lockup will for him. So there, going a little bit deep goes Krastin Stanchev, and as such, the lapping process is found. There is Alex Stefanov then, who is at the front of this field. And Koshev, as close as you like there, really, through Lagos at turn 3, certainly giving the vibe here that he wants to try and get by, certainly giving the intention that a move would be very much prioritized at this point. Defensive line taken, moves back to the outside, so forces the tight and narrow line. Now watch this from Koshev here as he gets the drive off of the exit. This would be, I would say, one of the best places to make that move, but we'll look to Andreev, who he himself, at this moment in time, is trying to get away past the very difficult character to pass in Roy Viveka, who just runs a ways off the circuit the way that's needed. It is worth reminding that these drivers can't just run off the circuit at every point, because they do get a drive-through penalty at 25 instants and disqualification at 35. So this is Stanimir Borisov, and this is heading towards turn 11, as I can confirm Viveka and Andreev side by side. Viveka will lose the place. Massive tank slapper in through the corner. Tried to save the car, did Stanimir Borisov, but flicks it into a wonderful 360 to get that back on track again. So well played by Stanimir, avoiding the gravel, but pass made on Roy Viveka. Andreev now will be eyeing up the traffic. And speaking of eyeing up the traffic, it is busy out there. It's going to be 3 wides. We watch the replay of Stanimir Borisov as they go through. Joris Ohms having to deal with a lot. And in fact, diving down Ivo Serafimov. He's just made a fantastic pass out there. He took full advantage of the traffic, and Serafimov just got the clearance, left the door open. Joris Ohms dived on through, and now Serafimov wants to try and make that pass back again. Not getting lucky, I will say, but still needing a little bit of help out there at this point. So still Ivo Serafimov looking, and now realizing that Joris Ohms, his closest rival in the GT3 AM Championship, will be taking a point or two away at this moment in time, as the lap traffic still proved to be a very important moment out there for a number of drivers. But still, they all look around and think, where do I make these moves? Kristen Stanchev on the brakes, trying to get by a GT3. And Maxim Dimitrov, he's got to drive because he's got Valentin Stemenkov completely behind him. Oh, and there's a turn, and right in front of them all. And Ivailo Dimitrov escapes away, but Stanchev with heavy contact with Stemenkov, thanks to Roy Viveka trying to get himself turned around straight. He fully Roman Grosjean tried to donut his way back out onto circuit, and this is Stemenkov getting caught wrong place, wrong time. You can see there Ivailo Dimitrov trying to avoid this, the contact that's there in front, and ultimately trying to keep the revs high to keep the rotation going, the smoke screen that was there, and just to the inside, there's the next bit of contact there, a crash in slow motion that nobody really wanted. Krastin Stanchev then finding his view of it, so he sees that in front and thinks, oh cool, I'll go to the inside, outside, didn't really know where to go, takes the tap in the rear as he gets quarter paneled, and then back across the circuit. Not really much that Krastin Stanchev could do at that moment. Viveka then falls back behind Christian Novev, who now is moved up to 11th, and there is Gabriel Ivanov taking a hint of gravel with him, going through there the corner at Craig Jones, and now up over the top of the hill, and sorry, I'm a little bit behind there, and that was gravel at turn 11, and now over here at 13 at Sagres corner, trying to find the pass here to move by Ivailo Dimitrov. So down the hill through Galpi, you can't follow pretty much toe-to-toe, but you can get this drive off the exit where the slipstream does benefit and give this advantage as you go on this long front stretch at over 250 kilometers an hour. And now here comes the search. Is there going to be a pass? Not into turn one, but Ivailo Dimitrov's taken a very aggressive line into Primera, and it's opened the door up, because on the exit's the priority. Gabriel Ivanov again having to fight through turn 3 and gets the move sorted right in front of Radlin Ivanov, who's trying to stay out of the way as he understeers there through turn 4 and tries to keep himself out of relative harm's way. Speaking of which, it's all about the moves, and Ivo Serafimov will now be looking around at the likes of Bozidar Andreev for second overall in category out there at this point. That will prove to be a very important battleground, as we will see that battle start to take its form and shape out there as they go through. 1 and 2 still together on track in GT4, but up over the hill, look at how much gravel has been deposited already. Just 20 minutes into this race here, Radlin Ivanov showing us just how tough this track surface is. Alex Stefanov then. This will be Milan Milchev moving on through to put a lap on him, but you can't be too careful out there because Rosti Koshev is a very patient driver. These two went hammer and tongs at each other earlier on in the season at Watkins Glen and hoped for it. Now, Dimitar Dimitrov finds himself in a very interesting situation here as he tries to deal with Velkov and Borisov and just gets out of it there through the corner, straight off the road. It's going to go Stanimir Borisov, who really got that out of shape, died down through on the brakes a bit late. It's a plateau braking zone, so if you get it wrong by about 5 meters, you're carrying on 15 over at Portimao corner, and he slides again. So Dimitar Dimitrov's got away with it. Lyubimir Velkov now will be in a scrap for position. This is all in Malinov. Now having a moment in through turn number 3 at Lagos. And is this going to be Andreev there catching off the exit? Oh, it is. Oh, and it's hefty. It's hefty, the contact there for Andreev, and that will really put him in a sour situation. He's a driver, even at the best of times, that doesn't like the contact, and there is a small dent in the splitter right now for Bozidar Andreev. So all in Malinov there with the contact, and we'll take a second look at this to see whether this is a case of just coming from too far back. Oh, Andreev needed to follow through. The door was left open. You can't really say, though, that Bozidar Andreev is alongside enough to command that space. Oh, my! Krastin Stanchev there with taking for a ride. Valentin Stemenkov there over the top. That was crazy. seeing that then as they go through. So obviously they've come together front to rear over the quarter panel, and that there for Krastin Stanchev is keeping the throttle down and taking those tyres to a place really where you wouldn't want to take them. So there was contact already halfway through the corner. Stanchev just about gathers it back up with a kick of oversteer and a foot full of throttle. But then as he comes back across the circuit here, is there anything untoward, or are they fighting for the same piece of real estate? So the left-hand bend comes in, and does there be enough clearance? Answer's no. And as such, you really have to say Mavrodiyev's got to leave a little bit of space there. But the question is, was there clearance for it? We'll take a look on board. And that just shows you a view of what you don't want to be seeing. You don't want to be looking at the Marshall posts side on. And not many drivers get to have that look heading over towards turn 7. It's a right-hand corner, and then you're looking over to the left-hand side of the circuit. That does not play ball. But up the hill again, Vladi Shopov, by the way, leading this race, 8.6 seconds. And Stanev right now has a problem. He's dropping down the order. Nicholas Stanev has had a spin out on track. Turn 8 has been the place where he's dropped it, and that will drop him then behind Sarafonov and Andreev, and back down to 7th position. Easily done. As you go in, we'll take another look, get the slow-mo racked up and ready once more. You can see he's over the curb. Oh, and he's lost it already trying to get the rotation in. So he's lost the car very early on in the corner, which indicates to me that the car was never balanced and settled. And speaking of balanced and settled, Sarafimov trying to come back here at Bozidar Andreev, who's got launch and has got line, and at Galpi confirms it. Bozidar Andreev started 21st with no qualifying time, and it's P5 out there at the moment. P5. Wow. Brilliantly done, but now the long front stretch comes into play, and this is where you could attack back at Primera corner. The run through here is going to be important. Leave the room, Nicholas, leave the room, as now here comes the look down the inside by Sarafimov, trying to get it, and if he's not got drive, then Maxim Dimitrov's going to be there, Stanev's going to be there, and they're all going to be tripping up over each other right now out on circuit. They've allowed that gap at 3.2 to Joris Ooms, who is out there at this point. Big defense taken as Maxim Dimitrov's Porsche now looks to attack down the hill at the VIP tower. And once again, there is no dice on that one. But again, staying close is that scrap as Sarafimov looks to try and build that gap and do a bit more. It has spread out through a number of places a bit further back. It's about 2 seconds with the likes that are there of Ivilo Dimitrov and co, but it's definitely busy, I would say, with Velkov out there right now, and Stanimir Borisov, the two teammates then, one in a McLaren, one in a Porsche, and then looking behind to Dimitar Dimitrov as they get by the ever-intertwined fates right now of Valentin Stamenkov and Krastin Stanchev there, and you can see already the damage that is there for both drivers. Stanchev then with a little bit of creasing going on up of the front splitter for him, and then for Valentin Stamenkov, a front left wheel exposed, which will be doing no favours in that McLaren out there. So a lot of work to do for them in the second half of this race. And rain, I think, is just going to stave off right now. The weather report has updated. No chance of rain then at 11:15, and maybe 1% chance at 11:30. So anybody who is trying to rain dance, it will stay sunny, most likely, most probably throughout this race. Off they all go there for Velkov and Borisov. I think Velkov's followed the brake marker there of his teammate, and Dimitar Dimitrov, who desperately wants to get through back here, certainly wants to try and prove it. Novev, easy as you like, P10. You don't get a much easier than that on Ivilo Dimitrov. That much you can, mark my words, on Ivilo Dimitrov. Well off the line, going through turn number 3 at Lagos. He just completely outbroke himself through the corner and said thank you very much. There did Christian Novev, who needs every point he can at this point, because he is at threat now of losing second in the championship to Raichanov. No Zdravko Ivanov, which I think is a big shame here today, but it's nice to see Gabriel Ivanov out there racing. But Maxim Dimitrov keeping Nicholas Stanev honest, and the entire group, I would say, being kept honest. Ivo Serafimov then all over the back of Alexander Nikolov Jr. Andreev is looking to run away. Oh, Andreev's got into the side of Koshev out there. So Rosti Koshev's taken a tap from Bozidar Andreev, and that won't make friends out there on track for Koshev, knowing that there is more of this race to come. So that would have been a very important moment there, and the lights flashing to say, I'm going to be going around the outside of Galpi, and watch out, because they're going to go either side of Rosti Koshev, who just leaves enough room. Stanev trying to pick the pocket like his name is Mika Hakkinen on Michael Schumacher, using Koshev as Ricardo Zonta at that point. Over towards turn 1 at Primera. Who's going to get boxed in on the exit here by the race leader in category? The answer is great move to be done. Serafimov, nothing he could do. Nicholas Stanev gets his past, little bit of trouble in at Lagos, but he gets the run that he needs up over the top of the hill. Watch out for Maxime Dimitrov, though. He's got a monster run up the hill in the pig car, and now looking for this way through, now looking for that dive, and oh, it's coming on the brakes, look out, straight on forward over the corner. Everyone now brings themselves together. It holds up your race leader in GT4 in Alex Stefanov, as now that brings him pretty much close to Rosti Koshev. Gabriel Ivanov gets closer. Oh my word, that could have been disastrous. What tenacity on the brakes by Maxime Dimitrov to avoid it. It was a late defense by Nicholas Stanev there to try and cover off that pass. And through every single position, through every single moment, that could have been disaster written all over it, as Serafimov now gets the run down the hill out to Portimao corner. And this now leads it, oh, defensive round the outside. Nicholas Stanev is defending aggressively out there on track, and I don't think he needs to. Middle of the road as he goes through Sagres corner, and we take a look at the halfway stage of the race at what Ivo Serafimov can do coming through Galpi. In the slipstream, Acura struggling there to get the drive needed to get by Nicholas Stanev. At McLaren, very, very slippery in a straight line, and it's making it very difficult. Oh, Serafimov's gone straight into the back of him. Ivo Serafimov trying to push his way through. That is a push to pass, if ever you saw one. He immediately redresses the position. Look at what it's going to cost him here. Dimitrov's gone through, going all the way to the left side of the circuit to try and defend it. That's desperate defending by Stanev, as Maxime Dimitrov now looks to go around the outside at the VIP tower. Watch out on the exit, though, because Milan Milchev's there. There's contact, and Milchev's going to, that's Gabriel Ivanov, who goes through. Gabriel Ivanov, they're getting the contact through as he looked to try and pick the pocket of Ivo Serafimov, and managed it there to get that done. Christian Noved, by the way, in the pits, and so too Borisov in the pits. Pit window has just opened up, and we have got it started. So now they are thinking about their strategy here and how they pit. Looking around the outside, there goes Maxime Dimitrov, but crucially, Nicholas Stanev, who has been up as high as third in this race, now has himself a little bit of safety to work with for a couple of corners. Still just the one retirement after a couple issues out there for certain drivers, that being Yulian Janovsky there on track. Milan Milchev back down in 31st position now, and also you got Mavrodiev down in 30th, and Mavrodiev is desperately trying to get back past the GT4 field soon, which would put him up with a lot more points than is there currently. Alexander Nikolov and crucially Martin Yankov have all lost ground out there on circuit, and Martin Yankov, I think, may have made a call to come down into the pits, I think. So he did a 157.6. So I'm wondering, actually, whether he has gone in and made that call, as there is the position lost by Gabriel Ivanov as he goes through. So Ivanov finding it, and yes, Martin Yankov actually has made the call to dive in. So GT4 has an interesting strategy. Gabriel Ivanov then losing a little bit of ground. They're losing the place to Maxime Dimitrov, and in is Roy Viveka, and a lot of the other drivers around him there. So Stanimir Borisov's been in for a very long time in the pit and has the license to go, but I think that's him done and dusted. This is Lyubimir Velkov, who's had a moment. So Paniot Karpachev is also in the pits. Oh, Velkov, a very weird place to lose it there. Sagres just dumping it, trying to put the power on to get the car turned around. And that certainly didn't work, spinning up the Michelin tyres there with a lot of love. So Karpachev now leaving the pit side by side between Stanev, who's lost the place now to Maxim Dimitrov, and now Gabriel Ivanov going around the outside. So there was reason here for Stanev to fight, because Ivanov, this is for 4th and 5th in class. And that's the move done at Sagres, perfectly executed through the corner. You had to have that on a paradigm to make that happen, and it worked a treat for them. Now, are they losing too much time? Are there going to be people thinking about the pits? None of them decide that they want to make that call at the moment, and you've also got the likes in the pits then for a long time of Lyubimir Velkov, who now just leaves the pits out there at point. Valentin Stemenkov also down in on the lane as it stands, making a pit stop, but Stanev staying close. But just that, stays close. On for race lead, though, as they go side by side. Alex Stefanov here has to be very careful about this, because around the outside, gaining the pass, Rusty Koshev takes it, but Stefanov might look back again at turn 3. Big lunge on the brakes, then Koshev defends it for the moment, but up through turn 4 and heading to turn 5, round 2 of their battles as they go from what they did a week ago at Watkins Glen. Now here comes the chance to start searching for it. Stefanov almost there down the inside, but not there for Koshev, who now will take his first laps led. And the biggest smile in terms of this battle will be Martin Yankov, as Alexander Nikolov Sr. is in the pits with Dimitrov making stops. 11.3 your lead in GT3 Pro. It's 3 seconds in GT3 AM. And on top of that, it is nothing in GT4, which we have seen a lot. Chris Vrajilov comes down into the pits, and he'll be joined by Venceslav Raichinov then making a pit stop. So they are making the call then to come down at this particular point. Joris Ohms is going to stay out. Stanchev's going to come in. Andreev is going to make the call to come in and try and undercut in terms of strategy. So pit lane is getting very, very busy. Everyone except Serafimov has dived in from the next group. So that entire group of Maxim Dimitrov, Gabriel Ivanov, and Nicholas Stanev are now going to battle as pit crews as they look to go by. So that will be important for them, as they will have to take fuel and tyres, and they do that independently of each other here in GT3 and 4. Don't have the luxury of a 4-second pit stop like they do in Formula Series. But off of the lane goes Chris Vrajilov, and away then to go, knowing that it's a huge gap to the race lead, and Koshev here is now on his own, because in comes Alex Stefanov to make his pit stop. So that's a very important stop. Keep an eye on Martin Yankov and where he comes out in comparison. Yankov, by the way, going down through turn 11 as things currently go. Ivanov with the jump in the lane gets by then the likes of Stanev and Dimitrov. And there is your race leader overall, Vladi Shopov. We've seen none of him really here today, just the brief glimpses of him driving out and doing what he needs to with 24 minutes to go. He finds the lane, go careful on the cone. It's a 60km/h pit lane here. It's a slow and long one at the Autodromo Internacional de Algarve. So you've got to be very switched on to it. Yankov has already made his progress now, and just looking at where Alex Stefanov is by comparison, he's already into turn 1. So Yankov, I think, was about 3 seconds shy of where he needed to be. Still having to try and find a pass on Radlin Ivanov for a position 2, so that will be rather important. Now in comes Ohms to make his stop, and he'll be keeping a very close eye on the likes of those behind. Ivo Serafimov will also come in, so keep your eye on Bozidar Andreev, looking to try and recover through the pack, as he's currently making his way to turn 12. And also keep a close eye on Venceslav Raichinov, because Shopov's already out at turn 1. Raichinov is only going through the final corner. Vrasilov has only just crossed the start-finish line. That tells you all you need to know about the gap and just how much of a difference there is. I'd say 13 seconds now is the margin. Now in comes Koshev. He has to, because he's going to cover off the move done by Alex Stefanov, and Alexander Nikolov Jr. is also going to dive into the pit. So some important moves there, and Gabriel Ivanov has just checked out from Maxim Dimitrov after the pit stop and has got that gap away. Off the pit exit, though, Serafimov. Oh, Serafimov! He's just joined right in front of Nicholas Stanev, who had to take avoiding action as he went through the opening corner to stay out of the way. Just about got the move, but could have completely misjudged that going through Primera, the first corner out on track. That, for Ivo Serafimov, would have been a heart-in-mouth moment as he finds himself fourth today on the road. Now, trials and tribulations of Krastin Stanchev. Now we're going to get a little bit of a look at here. Going through turn 8 at Samsung, and it's so easy to do. Up the hill corners, trying to keep the power up as early as you can on the exit. You've got to be patient for everyone as you go. Koshev has left the pits, and I do need to note this here for Rosti Koshev. He's got a gap on Alex Stefanov of about 3 seconds here, so he has masterminded a wonderful bit of work. And also, you look, Alexander Nikolov Jr. is just behind Alex Stefanov, so this is a big scrap for points. And if Alexander Nikolov Jr. wants to try and keep himself alert and alive as far as championship aspirations go, he needs to be running pretty quickly to try and get himself back. Remember, Nikolov Jr. and Alex Stefanov are fighting each other in the championship because they both got a missed race in this season. 29 points meet 17, so it is Nikolov Jr.'s retrospective work that needs to be done to chase down those points. But there up over the top of the hill was Robin Skelton, and there is Nikolov Jr. through at Portimao corner, and looking on the back here of one Mr. Alex Stefanov, a race winner last time out, and having to fight into turn 11. Look at the run through Galpi, close as close can be. And Alexander Nikolov Jr. senses momentum and opportunity here. It is same category of car as they battle. It's McLaren 570 versus McLaren 570, but the move's going to be stymied by Milen Milchev, who is looking to make his way through. Oh, they have to go either way! Contact! And there goes Milen Milchev. There goes Alexander Nikolov Jr. An absolute hash of a moment there for them. Nikolov just spooked by the traffic going through. They hit the brakes down the hill. He almost tagged Alex Stefanov, but Alexander Nikolov Jr. got it all wrong there at Primera and has caught Milchev out in that instant, which would have been for position. You can see moving over to the right, trying to avoid. Milchev couldn't open the steering up to natural line and was almost a passenger to it. And that's the contact for you, and it tells you all you need to know. Milen Milchev on the brakes, looking to get the turn in, and yeah, bang. There you see it. Around you go, and seeing that crowd, which I believe did have a hypercar in it once upon a time a year or so ago in winter testing, maybe even a GT3. So it just goes to show you how fast they go at this section, as Ivo Serafimov now in 9th position overall, getting help from the traffic there. That is Radlin Ivanov, who's just holding his line, his right to do so as the slower car, to dictate the tempo of where the quicker drivers go by and make their passes. Serafimov, then nothing to do with Stanev at this stage, but still definitely searching out there for a little bit of help. And speaking of which, keep your eye on GT3 AM. Borislav Andreev has that gap at 1.4 seconds at the moment. This is very much a race that Andreev can win against Joris Ohms, and if he can take the GT3 AM victory here today from the back of the field, not qualifying, then it would just show you where he could have been up and racing and challenging out there overall. He might have given Raichanov A little bit of a challenge out there, but Serafimov not giving up, the championship leader in GT3 AM, and he's trying to get a place on Nicholas Stanev, not because he wants to get by the pro and prove he's better than a pro, but more rather because he needs the points and they share the same points pool. And that's even more important when you consider that's Christian Novev just behind, who's desperately trying to move up from his 10th place position to get to 9th, to get to 8th, to get anything he can get his hands on. Oh, and not getting much help as well from Krastin Stanchev. There, the GT4 that's trying to keep out of harm's way and very nearly running into the side of Serafimov through Sagres and now through Galpi to end the lap. Turn 15 that ends off the corner. The wiggle off the exit from the Acura, well known. We know how slippery the McLaren can be in a straight line here of Christian Novev, hoping to try and get that angle. Not close enough in towards Primera, turn 1, but it's a double dual run, and going wide there isn't going to help Ivo Serafimov very much. Heading to turn 3 and slightly missing the apex, having to gather it back late through the corner. It is just that, still a holding pattern, and Serafimov will be very happy that Nicholas Stanev is giving as much help as possible. And speaking of moves, there goes Roy Viveka round the outside of Ivailo Dimitrov and making that pass lovely to go up into P11. So the recovery for Roy, he might have a little bit of a chance to talk to the stewards, but a move around the outside is always what we like to call Roy of the Rovers stuff. We can confirm that Borisov is now out of this race, making our second retirement officially now here in your SimGear GT3 GT Masters out there, GT3 and GT4 Masters we have out there today. But it's still these three that the focus is on. Ivo Serafimov giving everything he can to the McLaren of Nicholas Stanev as he battles in a pro sandwich with Am filling at this moment, trying to get wide here for Sagres to take as much corner as possible. Oh, hello. We'll take a little look at the interior of that McLaren, why don't we? He was that close. Oh, he was right up against the bumper, trying to get through the corner. Ivo Serafimov looking at Nicholas Stanev, thinking, I've got all the drive at Sagres, but none of it by the time they crest the rise out of Galpi to try and find these moves. So it is getting pretty important now as they try and find through. And I am just looking here down the order, saying what more do you need to do to gain these places? Alex Stefanov now 5.8, nearly 6 seconds behind Koshev. Yankov a further 4 seconds back of that. So that's 1, 2, and 3 at the moment sorted. But now this is where every point becomes important. Over to the far left-hand side of the circuit, over to VIP Tower. That's a heavy break around the outside, but he's deep in through the corner. Serafimov will get drive here off the exit, though, and this will power the run up through his small kink left, over to turn number 7. Stanev trying to hold around the outside, and the McLaren does so, but will have to do so again. Oh, cuts him off through the middle of the corner. No drive there. Novev is just there, a passenger to it too. Oh, that could have been everything in terms of the battleground there, but Serafimov now trying to climb up the hill. There's still no moves. Oh, he's going to get into the back of him. He sends him a shot, a message from Serafimov. Look at him. 1, 2, and 3 off the exit, nose to tail. Novev, oh, there's no room there. Has to open up the steering and be very, very cautious. Spin in front of them, though. They're going to be straight in on the scene there to Lyubomir Velkov. Turned around, and Velkov then just about got out of the way there as he was there with Raban Skelton going around. So I'm not sure whether Skelton got involved. No, it was just a spin by Velkov all on his own. But now with the traffic, oh, no way through. No way through on Skelton by Stanev. And Serafimov's going to get drive off the exit here, but he's going to have to go off the circuit to try and find his space. Novev's going to get the drive as well. We're going to be 3 wide, are we? As we head onto the front stretch, looking for this move. It's going to be Stanev here trying everything he can to hold on. Novev and Serafimov on the outside. And Serafimov's going to be the loser here because Novev's going to go down the inside. Woohoo! Ooh, don't get that close. Don't get that close as Serafimov just about keeps his station, but loses the place to Christian Novev. Sensational battling there between them, and all the while, it looks like Ooms is starting to pull away from Andreev. It's still not done. You've got Dimitrov and Ivanov, which will be important, but you've got Ivo Serafimov trying around the outside of Christian Novev. Novev has none of it, drives off the exit fantastically there, and will hold that position and do only just what's needed right now. P9 for Novev, P8 still for Nicholas Stanev, and then P10 now for Ivo Serafimov, and he'll be losing a chunk of points here today right now. And as it stands, before we apply any penalties out there, it is so important to keep an eye on those points. It's 54 points right now for Joris Ooms in 4th position, with Serafimov down in 10th. He'd only score 41, so he dropped 13. Gap into today is 9. Joris Ooms would walk out of Portimao as the championship leader as it stands. So that is a big swing in GT3 AM. And of all the championships we thought that was going to change about, that was not the one we were thinking of. Mavrodiev, by the way, down in the lane in the number 52, pulling it in of his own accord, so I can only assume it's scheduled out there because there's no damage. A splash and dash and off and away, a 2-stop potentially with the damage that we've seen earlier. But now here comes Christian Novev. He wants to pass on Nicholas Stanev for position. He won't get it here into turn 1, but Stanev has gone flying off the road at turn 1 and heading over towards turn 2. You can't do that too often. And now again defensive on the brakes. Stanev has been so aggressive on these defenses. There's not much you can do. Dimitrov as well at 0.2 of a second is also keeping himself very close to Gabriel Ivanov for P6. But Serafimov now needing these moves, needing these places, because if Ivo Serafimov can get by both of those drivers right now, that would be an extra 4 points. They'd go tied on points, and I think by count back, it would still be Joris Ooms, but they would be tied on points in GT3 AM, which was the championship we thought was the least likely to change hands here today, which looks like it will do out there at the moment. There is Rosti Koshev leading GT4, and that is Alex Stefanov behind him in second, going through Galpi at 7 seconds back. Martin Yankov, for the first time really we've seen all season, doesn't have the pace to really challenge up at the front, and it's a little concerning to see that from Martin Yankov, but it's still consistent right now here in 3rd position. I'd take P3 the way that Martin Yankov's been driving and say that is still a very strong result, and it keeps him within 2 points of Koshev, who is there in front. So you certainly take that at every single opportunity. Now it remains close again. Stanev and Novev and Serafimov with 10 minutes to go. No dice through turn 1 at Primera, through turn 2. And now in on the brakes! Serafimov straight into the back of Novev. And that pretty much epitomizes his day, doesn't it? Never really had the pace, been caught up in a couple incidents here and there. That one not his fault. Christian Novev would love a mulligan here today. A redo would do his day fantastically. But for him, what can you say about this? Ivo Serafimov driving through turn 2, looking towards turn 3. It's uberly aggressive. He tries to get down the inside. He has absolutely taken the rear out there of Christian Novev. And you're a passenger at that point. You're already committed into the corner. You've done all your braking. The only thing you could maybe do is keep the steering wheel out. But that there for Christian Novev, you got to feel for him in this situation. It's such a tough race, and he has been on the wrong side of Lady Luck here and will need a little bit of help to go and get back to station, especially when you got an extra 20 minutes added on for the next round of the championship when they head on over to that 4th round overall. So I think that's telling you all you need to know when Mugello comes around in 7 days, that there needs to be a bounce back and a responsibility that comes with it. What a drive, though, by Joris Ooms, who has stayed well out of any sort of trouble here today and has done exactly what he's needed to do. He has staved off Bozidar Andreev's charge, which got down to 1 second at one point, but the damage to the front, I think, is still playing a factor here for Andreev that puts him down a little bit here and is now back to 3 seconds, flashing the lights at Martin Yankov, desperate to have any form of drive as he goes through. There is still a little bit of worry about the wheel then, to say if he's got a little bit of suspension damage out there, does Andreev, but at least right now, he will probably feel like he's got a lot that he can play with at the moment later on in this season. And with this sort of form, Andreev is a threat for the title. Orlin Malinov then keeping himself in play. I do want to keep an eye on Nikolai Mikov just a little bit, because he was coming into today a point behind Rosti Koshev, and he will lose points here, but he won't lose very many with his traditional conservative style of running. Orlin Malinov then in 6th position in category. He's the closest challenger here, but not necessarily close enough to make too much happen. There's Katsarski as we watch a little bit further down, because if you haven't noticed, it's a 17-second margin at the front of this field. It is a little bit spaced out. Lazar Katsarski looking for one final place here in the final 7 minutes, or 6.5 now it will be, of this race on Dimitar Dimitrov. And this, for a top 15, would be a very lovely result out there, trying to get the launch on through. But Dimitrov just about holds his nerve, and behind that is Joris Ooms looking to put a lap on these drivers. Brakes on by Katsarski, out of the way, and out of the way also goes Dimitar Dimitrov, straight to the inside, and keeping himself well out of harm's way. Now, this is Milan Milchev, who's just got back out on circuit again. So, tough day at the office for Milan Milchev, and this will be turn number 12. Trying to put the power down, and the back says, I don't want to grip. Easily done. So troublesome again for Milan Milchev. Katsarski remaining close. And speaking of close, you've still got the likes of Gabriel Ivanov and Maxim Dimitrov. Now, these points are important for Maxim Dimitrov after what was a very, very tough showcase at Watkins Glen. Was desperate to try and hold those points in, and down in 7th position, 20 points off of the championship lead. Yes, will gain ground a little bit on Ivo Serafimov, but will lose a little bit to Joris Ooms, but still is going to keep himself in range, which I think is the important factor out there, as we watch Katsarski once again remaining resolute and close. This is just in front of those drivers who will be looking to try and find those passes, and find those passes soon. But there, with 5 minutes to go, you run out of superlatives for him sometimes, Vladislav Shopov. He has been on another stratosphere ahead of Chris Vrajilov and his teammate Venceslav Rajchanov here. The negative delta by SimGear car has been on another level, and you see it every single time he drives. He's fastest in qualifying. He's fastest in the race. The only reason why he is not up there and leading this championship by a mile is because of the fact that he had himself a few fuel number issues at Sebring. But the battle continues way down the field with Katsarski and Dimitrov. This over to the VIP tower. They've got to leave a little bit of room here, because that is Rosti Koshev as they're trying to get the lap through, but they're also being lapped at the same time there, as there is Bozidar Andreev then, who will get my driver of the day vote for the way he's gone up to P5. Simply wonderful the way he's been going about it. And Serafimov might not even be safe here for his 9th place finish. So Roy Vivek, oh my, pass in the grass. Pass in the grass by Bozidar Andreev to get the lap through. That shows you commitment, even at this late stage. Not afraid out there. And you just saw in the background Ivo Serafimov being chased by Roy Viveka and trying to chase down Nicholas Stanev for position, and Christian Novev would love to get straight back at Ivo Serafimov after the contact that he had going through in these late stages of this race. So for the moment, Andreev, not much he can do. There's Chris Vrajilov in second. Now, only 3 seconds his margin over Venceslav Rajchanov. We haven't really talked much about it. Rajchanov has definitely kept Vrajilov honest here, but for the moment, Rajchanov, not much he can do except try and find his way past a lot of BMWs battling. Stanchev and Palauzov going at it together, and Raiden Ivanov there, who are all there. So trying to go through. Stanchev, by the way, is still a lap down, I think, by comparison. So likes of Dimitar Palauzov then keeping himself in play with Ivanov. So there are differences even in GT4 of a lap that they've had to try and navigate through. Damage there for Ivanov then on the front right, was that? Going through, definitely looked like there was a lot more gap to the front tyre than we have seen previously out of it at this stage. So there is still that they're having to try and tiptoe their way through, but it is worth noting how many laps we have to go, because Vladislav Shopov is only heading through Galpi corner right now with a 19-second margin, and will cross the line with about 2 minutes and 10 seconds remaining, which will mean we'll have 2 laps to go when all of the drivers cross the line, and Shopov himself has 2 laps to go here in this race. Lazar Katsarski still hoping for a pass, still hoping that a move will materialize out there on circuit, dropping down the hill, hoping that the run in the West McLaren-inspired McLaren is going to get that sorted, and gets the scare through the middle of turn 12 to Sagres corner at 13. Is this going to work around the outside, or is this going to have to be a bit more of a patience play that brings itself in? Now drive off the exit's going to be needed if you want to try and make this move, a 10th of a second or two through Galpi. And now out of the final corner, up the hill they go, and with 2 laps of their race remaining, Gabriel Ivanov will watch very, very concerned with only a 1 second gap over Maxim Dimitrov. He's got to try and let them fight, and the move is let through by both of them. And look at this, because of that, because they let them through, it's going to mean that Katsarski then loses back the place again. So now what happens here with Maxim Dimitrov? This is more of an after you, no after you, no after you, sir, style of battling that they've got, constantly battling to and fro, gentlemanly despite being interrupted. But there goes the pass through from Maxim Dimitrov, and that pretty much puts an end to Dimitrov's hopes of a 6th place finish. Palauzov then on the back of Ivanov will want that place on the lime green machine, or on the light green machine, I should say, knowing that they do not have very long, and Katsarski is still very much not done trying to find this move. They've allowed Maxim Dimitrov through. Oh, front to rear, having to get on the binders there was Katsarski for fear of running up the back of Dimitar Dimitrov. And Joris Ooms then happy in his 4th place right now for GT3 AM. He's driven a wonderful race here over Bozidar Andreev, who is trying what he can to stay close, to keep this one honest, but it's a very tall order to come from the back of the field to get yourself to where you need to be. But we are on the final lap of your 3rd round of the SimGear GT Masters. Vladislav Shopov moving through the VIP tower, and now up the hill once more he goes, heading over towards turns 7 and 8 on track. This right-hander leads to Samsung, turn 8. This is where you hit the brakes. 82 kilometers an hour, back up over the crest, and he will say a little prayer to the motorcycle rider who was killed through this corner here, Craig Jones, and up the hill to Portimao corner itself. Now, the rights here, the double apex right for Vladislav Shopov. It's almost the perfect race meeting. Novev is nowhere. Vrajilov, his nearest challenger. He is picking up big points on everyone around him as he exits through turn 12. Looks at Sagres corner with just 1 car in front, and the dueling corners then that come along to finish off the lap over at Galpi. It is Vladislav Shopov proving to every single person that does look upon him that he is head and shoulders above the rest. Vladdy Shopov takes his 2nd win of the season here at the Algarve over Chris Razhalov, who will be 20 seconds back at least, heading over towards the line. And we do look around for the likes of Rusty Koshev and co, who will be making that progress through the middle sector of the lap. But it will be then second for Razhalov. Raichinov will come to the line behind in third, and Joris Ooms will have himself a big points day in GT3 AM, fourth position overall, and it screams out that he has had a simply faultless drive for him and his abilities as he will look to go through. Roy Viveka might try and add an extra little dent of damage in for Ivo Serafimov if he can get the pass. Ooms over the line, your GT3 AM winner here today, but your championship leader here having to really scrap, and this is with Rusty Koshev here, who is your GT4 leader and about to be GT4 winner. So here we go, down through Galpi corner, Koshev, then, Roy. In the wall goes Roy, and he might lose out to Novev, who's out of fuel coming up the hill. So Christian Novev here, it might survive. Rusty Koshev takes GT4. Novev, he just about got one there. He lost the place to Vilo Dimitrov, so still 11th there for Christian Novev. What a horrible race for him, running out of fuel as well. Coming to the line, you couldn't have asked for anything worse, really, in terms of his category out there. As the last of the drivers, then we wait for Nikolai Mikov to come to the line, and it was very close in the end, actually, between Stefanov and Yankov. Only about 0.6 of a second. We didn't actually get to catch that coming to the end, but Viveka was desperately trying to keep the foot down, the back trading around. Bang! Into the Armco there on the right-hand side there, that guard railing that is there, and having to reverse around. We'll take another look. Viveka trying to get that car down the inside of Rusty Koshev, and ultimately, bang. It's a heavy instant if you have it in the real world, but in sim racing, you brush it off and you drive over towards the line at that point. But we'll get confirmation then of results here from the Autodromo Internacional de Algarve. It will depend, of course, stewards' decisions out there on track, but you can't get any more dominant than what Vladi Shopov has been able to do. 1 hour, 1 minute, and 17 seconds, a winning margin of 20.6 in the end over Chris Razhalov, with Ventsislav Raichinov making it 2 SimGear cars on the podium for the second consecutive race. Joris Ooms will find himself in fourth, with Bozidar Andreev going from 21st on the grid to 5th, ahead of Gabriel Ivanov and Maxim Dimitrov, 6th and 7th. It is Nicholas Stanev in 8th, with Ivo Serafimov in 9th position, but the issues with Christian Novev, I think, are going to be very, very important to keep in mind. We saw Ivilo Dimitrov stealing a top 10 over the line ahead of Christian Novev, who ran out of fuel. And on top of that, Roy Viveka for Mark Speed having a spin on the final corner of the race. Paniot Karpachev, a quiet 13th for him, ahead of Alexander Nikolov Sr. They're in 14th in the Ferrari, with Lazar Katsarsky in 15th and Dimitar Dimitrov in 16th. 17th would be Lyubimir Velkov, and the first of the GT4s will be your new GT4 championship leader, Rostislav Koshev. They're picking up the win for the first time this season as he crossed the line with all of that drama happening in and around him. Alex Stefanov would just finish ahead of Martin Yankov, second and third. So Yankov now will fall 2 points back of Koshev in the championship, with Vladimir Mavrodiev in 21st and Alexander Nikolov Jr. in 22nd position. You then got Nikolai Mikov 23rd with a quiet race, all in Malinov behind him. Roban Skelton, Raldan Ivanov then in 26th, Dimitar Palauzov 27th, and Valentin Stomenkov 28th out there. And then the final four, where you got Milan Milchev 4 laps down, along with Krasin Stanchev, both of whom had very big off-track days for off-track racing, with Stanimir Borisov in 31st, your second retiree, and your first retiree, Yulian Janovsky, running into troubles. That will take us then here on Pitlane.TV live over to your SimGear press conference, where we will have the chance to talk to some of our class drivers out there and the results that they've had. I think no better person to talk to at this stage than the driver who won this race outright, and that will be Vladislav Shopov, who I'm sure in the next couple of moments will get the chance to join in with us. But A simply magnificent race from start to finish over in GT3. Built the gap pretty much immediately. Didn't really have to worry about what was happening behind, and it was one of those dominant displays out there that we do seem to get. So we will have that chance to talk to some of our drivers, and we will do now with Vladislav Shopov. Vladislav, that for you was pretty much the most faultless race I think I could find. We hardly saw you all day because you'd had a gap very early on and you refused to relinquish it.
It was uneventful. That's the best I can say. Uneventful, a bit boring. I'm not gonna lie. But my teammate Vance had a big race. I think he dropped down to P10 in the beginning because of a crash, and then kept fighting until reaching the podium, P3.
Yeah, he certainly had a big fight to go and find his way through. But in terms of now where you stand, you look around at your championship rivals. Yes, your teammates had a very good day finding P3, but you look down, you see Christian Novev finishing P11. You couldn't have asked for a better championship day either.
Uh, yeah, I don't know what that means for the standings, but it should be quite a big of a gap now. And I don't think he's gonna keep P2. I think there's somebody else who's gonna be in P2 in the standings after this race. So I don't know who that is, but I'll have to look and see.
Well, we do know that you've kept yourself squeaky clean out there in this race. You were dominant up there at the top. But now comes the question 7 days' time, Mugello is on the horizon. But importantly, we add an extra 20 minutes onto the race because we're running a Type B type round here in the championship. So now, as that goes along, an extra 20 minutes for you surely doesn't make too much of a difference for you, seeing as the way that you're driving away from the field at the moment.
Probably I'm gonna make a mistake at the pit stop because that's what I usually do in the longer races. And once I have to do something new, I always screw it up. But yeah, Mugello, another awful track. I'm gonna keep doing rain dances. Hopefully they work this time, but they haven't worked for now.
Well, they almost did here at Portimao. There was a threat of it, but the threat went away. Vladislav Shopov there joining us then and picking up the race victory for his second consecutive race win. Second behind him was Chris Vrajolov here in the number 5 car. And Chris, it was crazy on the opening lap. We saw from pillar to post a lot of the drivers there from second back to fifth getting caught up in lap 1. So talk us through your way of avoiding that on the outside.
It was pure madness, honestly. I got really lucky because I was starting on the outside, but then I somehow managed to grab the inside, the right place, the right time. So I managed to escape with only 4x, which I'll take any day, to be fair.
Well, you get away without any troubles, and then from that point onwards, it's a case of head down and try and find the pace. When you look at someone like Vladislav Shopov, I know he's your teammate normally, but of course you're running slightly different teams out there here in this championship. When you look at the way he drives, what do you take from him walking away by 20 seconds and seeing his driving style and how he builds that gap? What lessons do you take away from that?
I think he preserved the tires better. I was really struggling. Like second half of the first stint, I was really struggling for grip. Hence, I pitted a lap earlier. But apart from that, it's just pure pace. I think there's he just had more.
Sometimes that is just the breaks that it is. Mugello comes up on the horizon, though, in 7 days. An extra bit of time then, so for longer strategy at the stops. For you, it's been some very consistent running so far this season, and you've just been quietly notching up the points. Is this going in the right direction for you to get the results that you want for the team in the championship?
Thanks, mate. Yeah, I mean, I was really hoping to see you here earlier in the press conference, but round 3 still not too bad. So I'll take it. I'll take it.
Absolutely will. Chris Vrajolov there joining us and picking up a second position overall. We will jump down over to GT3 AM, where a 4th place finish today overall is big points for Joris Ooms, who joins me now. And Joris, when you look around, then you see after qualifying that you're right up there. You're starting the car in 5th position overall. Do you stare down the barrel of this is going to be a big points day today for whoever comes up on top?
Oh, I don't know. I really didn't know what to expect. I wasn't expecting a P5 after qualifying. I was expecting like a P10 or something. So I was like, yeah, let's see, just take it lap by lap and we see where we end up. It was a great race.
It was a fantastic race for you. You were able to build the margin early and sort of deal with any other problems that came along behind you. It looked like for you in the Max Speed racing car that the late challenge came from Bozdar Andreev with about 20 minutes to go. So talk us through just keeping that gap from 1 second and extending it out in the final stages to about 3.
Yeah, that was a good fight actually, and I think we had sort of similar pace, but we were, or let's say, I was a bit more lucky with the GT4 traffic. I saw him catching up, and then I was extending again when we were passing some GT4s. But in the end, it was manageable, and I just had to keep an eye on my fuel as well. So turned out well.
It turned out well for you, and if the math works out the way that I believe the math works out, I believe you're going to be walking into Mugello as the championship leader.
Oh, okay, that's also unexpected then, but I'll take it.
You absolutely will. Joris Ooms joining us then, and your new championship leader heading over to Mugello. We will now bring in second position in today's race, Božidar Andreev. Božidar, from not qualifying due to penalty to finishing second in class in 5th position, that goes down as possibly the best drive we've seen all day.
Well, it was a hard work to do. I have struggling with tires. I barely find the grip, but I gave everything I have to gain some points because to the penalty I have lost a lot of them. So that's it.
Well, it's wonderful the way that you were driving through, having to battle with a number of fantastic drivers up and down the order. But talk us through having to navigate through those drivers. What does it take for you in that Porsche to try and find those moves and how you construct it? How do you visualize as you go into the corner and try and look to that move? How do you look to make an overtake?
Well, I'll try to be smooth, and when I see a gap, I go for it. And the most of situation it works.
And with that working for you, you know you're down 20 points in the championship, but crucially, you will still gain a little bit out there and keep yourself a little bit closer. You've got Mugello with a little bit extra time out there to go and work with the Type B style race, as will be an hour and 20 minutes on that one. How are you looking at that extra 20 minutes, and do you think that plays into your advantage as a driver?
It will be interesting overall. I will enjoy it. Of course, I will enjoy it to be a bit longer. And when it's long, it means that you have more opportunities.
Well, more opportunities are certainly working out for you. Božidar Andreev, P2, here today from the Autodromo Internacional de Algarve. And just behind him in 3rd position in class would be Maxim Dimitrov out there on circuit. Maxim, it was tough for you over at Watkins Glen, so a bounce-back performance was certainly needed for you, and you certainly found yourself in the thick of everything in the second half of that race, dealing with a couple of pros there, the likes of Stanev and Ivanov.
Yeah, finally I managed to finish the race without big incidents taking me out. I didn't have the pace as I had in previous races, but it worked out well for me.
It certainly did work out quite well. There was a moment, though, in the middle of the race where you had to absolutely get on the binders and avoid possibly a major car pileup down at the VIP corner. So when you're sitting down turn 5 and you're on the brakes and you know you've got to bail out of it by going left, what goes through your head as a driver trying to avoid an incident like that?
Yeah, I was fully on the brake, so I was doing a move on previous car, and door was just closing before my eyes. And yeah, I decided better to go and maybe ruin my race, but at least not take 2 cars out.
And you managed to avoid that, and crucially, it will now give you a platform, almost the same platform as actually Andreev, Božidar Andreev, who we were talking to earlier. Looking at Mugello that comes up, is that going to be one where you think you can claw back even more points after a result like this one today?
Hopefully, never driven Mugello before, but I'm quite good in endurance races, so this might be my edge.
Well, your edge is certainly showing there. P3 out there overall today in category. Maxim Dimitrov there joining us as we will take the little look down into GT4, where for the first time this season, Rostislav Koshev has found the victory overall. Rosti, that is the first time that you step on the top step of the podium, and it was a nigh-on faultless performance for you. You had to battle hard with Alex Stefanov there in the middle of the race, but outside of that, you got the pit stop strategy perfect and you walked away.
Oh yeah, it was a great race. Thanks everybody again. Uh, I had to save fuel before the pit stop, so I can make one more lap, and that saved me. That gave me the edge to refuel less the car, and I got ahead after the pit stop. The very crucial thing is I got the overtake before the in lap, so I got a very good in lap and gained time there as well.
You certainly were able to gain that time, and it was a very good result for you. Were about 10 seconds by the time you got over the line. But talk us through that final corner, because it was very scary for you with Roy Viveka spinning behind you.
The final corner was scary pretty much all race. The GT3s were trying left, right, and center to go. I even had a 3-wide moment with the GT3s. So it's definitely not a funny place to overtake.
It's not funny, but you're going to be dealing with the GT3 traffic a little bit more when it comes to Mugello. The extra time's going to be there and causing a little bit more chaos, I would believe. But you go into Mugello now as the sole championship leader now in GT4. How are you looking at the standards then of GT3 lapping as you go to that next stage? Because it must be very scary for you being in a GT4 and seeing these cars that are slightly quicker than you continuing to try and find their way by.
Well, it's difficult to say. It depends from the drivers. Some people are very terrible and not terrible, but they have patience. Some people have patience. They're good. Some people just dive bomb, and you have to deal with it. But it happens, so we just keep going.
And that you will with the championship lead. Rosti Koshev joining us then and picking up not only the win, but that championship lead out of Portimao and heading to Mugello. Second position was Alex Stefanov, who is here with me now. And Alex, again, another tough day of battling there between you and Rosti. But for you, a case where the pit stop came into play and suddenly the gap opened for you.
Actually, I had a situation before the pit stop when I just want to pit, and I had a GT3 car on my right side, and I was trying to enter the pit lane, but it was not possible. And this was the moment when Rusty took the lead, so he overtook me, and then I tried to catch him. Even after the pit stop, I tried to close the gap, but it was at the end it was 10 seconds.
Well, a tough gap to try and chase down, but at least from your perspective, you showed very good early pace out there in terms of putting it together. Through 2 rounds of you racing, you've been up there with a win and a second. That's got to give you a lot of confidence out there on track.
Yeah, my goal was to achieve again another victory, but yeah, on the quali I was fast on the practice, but I didn't have my race setup. Maybe, I don't know, I screwed my strategy.
Well, there's a chance to gather that victory back when we battle again in 7 days' time. What do you think of Mugello as a circuit, as a place to battle?
It's a very tricky circuit. Actually, I think I can do it much better. So let's see. I'm looking forward.
I think we are as well with those sorts of words. Alex Stefanov joining us then and picking up second position overall. Third would belong to Martin Yankov, who's been waiting very patiently to have a conversation with us. And Martin, after what was a very troublesome race for you last time out over at Watkins Glen, today, a case where the pace just wasn't there for you for the first time this season. So did you come into today and after seeing what happened and the drivers in front of you starting to pull away, did you turn into a damage limitation mode?
Hello. No, actually, I did that after the first practice session I drove. I found out that I just didn't have the pace with the car, so I knew that in order to get the points, I needed to have a clean race, which I did, and I don't know, just pray for best luck.
Praying for that luck, and we've seen that actually quite a bit with you, that you've been able to pick up those clean race bonuses and the extra 2 points that come along with it. How important is it for you when you're sharing a championship hall with the GT3 drivers that when there's not much gap between finishing first and second, that you continue to pick up those clean race bonuses?
Yeah, actually, I think at the end of the game, it will be the thing that's going to matter the most, because difference from first to second to third is only 1 point, and for clean race you get 2 points. So I think this will be the best thing to do, to try to achieve a clean race.
Well, that will certainly hold you in a very good stead, especially when you're heading to Mugello in 7 days' time. Do you feel like your BMW is going to maybe perform a little bit better there, out there on track in power, and give you more opportunities to go out there and fight for the victory?
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I like the track, but I don't know how it will be compared to the other cars. So I hope for the best.
We hope for the best as well for you, Martin. P3 here today, and a clean race as well, keeping it out of trouble. Exactly what you want to hear here in the Sim Gear press conference, which will now bring itself over to a close here with you on Pitlane.TV and the Sim Gear GT Masters. It has been a season where the battling has been fraught and intense, and you never truly know where everything is going to start stacking on up together. But the one thing you can guarantee is the fact that we'll be back again in 7 days' time, and we'll add a little bit more time onto the clock, because we'll be at Mugello looking to make that 4th round, the halfway stage of the season, all important. It's now about putting the best feet forward on these results, and we're seeing that with a number of drivers. My name's been Jake Sperry, bringing you all of the coverage here today of the Sim Gear GT Masters. Rusty Koshev will still keep Martin Yankov very close with him in the championship, knowing that every point is going to be hard fought for. Joris Ooms will now move forward and into championship league contention in GT3 AM with the trials and tribulations of Ivo Serafimov here today. But crucially, a tough day at the office for Christian Novev now means that Vladislav Shopov has sole control of GT3 Pro, in which his pace has managed to find that. We will see you in 7 days' time when Mugello makes the halfway stage, and we'll add an extra 20 minutes on the clock to battle with here in your Sim Gear GT Masters.
Evolution begins with motivation.